how to expand our street shows. Yeah, it's something I've done for years, and that's literally when I started my street show way too soon. And it's a pressure that we all will fall under, and we're all familiar with, starting our street shows and starting our material too soon. And there's an unseen pressure upon street performers when you go out on the streets, and it's this like which it, it, if you like, an unseen pressure, which basically is yeah, it's part of a panic. It kind of gets you gets into your blood, and you get a sense that you need to get out and start your street show and hold people's attention. A fear that people are going to walk off from your show. So this is number one thing. This is so in order to prevent that, what we end up doing is start doing our magic really early on. The pitfall with that is it's great for the person who stopped, or the few people that you've gathered. The pitfall of that is that you end up burning through all your material before you've managed to attract a big enough audience. Does that make sense? Yeah. So this is one of those things, and if you've been out on the streets, you'll know exactly what I mean. You're there and you're doing your show, and I know we've all been on the streets, looking at everybody here, each and every one of you. Bruce, I saw you. You came over and did your stuff in Cardiff as well, and it's and each and every one of us have had that experience. We've gone out, and it's that pressure to go out there and do it. I think Eric is. Oh man. So I just saw Eric appear and then he disappeared. I don't know what he's doing, but yes, so you get this pressure, and that's when we start expanding or start stepping into our material. So this is a big mistake. Yeah. Personal experiences, like I say, from my own experience for years, this was a pitfall in my street show, where I felt that material or my ability to attract an audience wasn't up to scratch. And I was constantly looking at the magic I was performing. I'm thinking, oh, I need other material. I need other, I need a technique, if you like, a secret wand in order to attract that audience and get them to stay. And again and again, there was that pitfall. It's just like if you like, a distraction. So I kept on looking for new effects, and eventually there was a turnaround. I'll come to that. So I ended up for quite a long time, for a number of years, starting off with starting too soon, and he ended up doing too soon and doing too little right at the beginning of my show. So it was a flaw. And I think for me, it was probably around about 10 years that I struggled with this. And then to one day, I began to realize that, or experiment with actually slowing right down and holding off performing my very first effect. And this was the big turning point, if you like. And I know this is something we do hark on a lot about at the School of Busking, about slowing down, but the principles of it are just really dynamic. It's where your show becomes more about the experience than the magical effect. So the actual magical effect is just a means to an end, but the creating this experience is what it's all about. So the second part of slowing down. So I'm going to dive into this, and if you like, we're going to go into this and dive deep inside into this. So this is what we got: is patience, pacing, and our patter, the 3 Ps, as I'll refer to them. So a pacing, patter, and finally sorry, patience, patter, and pacing, right? So patience is what it's all about. It's like, it's literally being, in that sense of slowing ourselves down, watching what's going on in our environment, and choosing when we start our show. And this is a very important part of really being slow. And actually, so it's patience and watching what's going on. And in some cases, it's, you might even at the end of it think, actually, this is not right. I haven't got the right people. I haven't got the size of the magnitude of the people I was hoping for. And you literally go through your entire build again. And there's a place for that. Hopefully it doesn't happen often, but it's all about being patient. As if you like, you can compare yourself to, if you're into fishing at all, you know, casting out that rod, that's what you literally are doing. You're trying to get the right hook, as opposed to being desperate in order to get people to stop and start your show. There's a twist, there's a difference. And so patience is a key supplement to developing and attracting your audience. In addition, is your patter. Patter is a very important part. Patter, by that I mean, is what we say, what we speak, just to clarify. But our patter, often less is more. Pausing, an incredible important part of our show. Amount of times I've seen street performers where they have jam-packed their show with every one-liner and they're speed talking through the material, and there's this almost like a nervous jitter that's coming out of their performance. And instead, they need to slow right down, like slow right down, and not be afraid of pauses, not being afraid of silent moments, pinning, if you like, those jokes, or hanging those jokes at a perfect key moment. So, so i.e., instead of rolling over a joke, you got to pause and frame that joke. So whatever, say it could be, the one that which comes up quite often is visual comedy. So visual comedy, someone walks through your show, and it's just a classic line. It's just a stage in life you're walking through. Pause. The visual comedy, allowing people to visually take in the visual aid of someone literally walking through, and the narrative requires a pause. And that's when it becomes funny, or a kid on the shoulders of a parent, or, so sitting there. So like, there's loads of one-liners, like the tallest child in the world is visual comedy, again, pausing. Or if you're, what's the other one? It's, sir, you have a child growing out of the back of your head. If you can visualize it, visually, it's very funny on the spot, so, you pause. You can get cream for that. It's one of those, you got to have the right, or right audience. But both of those jokes is a double banner, and but it requires pausing. Pausing requires you to slow down. So straight away, you have this relaxed pace about your show. You're not in a rush. And when you initially are working with that audience, initially working with people in your audience, there's that pressure will still be there until you completely win that audience over. Once you won them over, they'll adjust to your pace. They'll begin to realize the pace that you're working at. Okay, so I'm going to say hello to Eric. Eric, if I'm assuming that you can hear me, and you're working on a because you normally got your camera on, and I know that you've been attempting to join us, and so I'm welcoming you, even though I can't see you, but I can see you there, Eric, and perhaps you can send me a message or something, and and we'll. I don't know if you have any questions. There you go. I can see you. Yes, we can communicate. I'm guessing you're on low communication. So Eric, you're with us. Good to see. Good to. Well, glad you could make it. I can't see you. Any questions, Eric? I'll keep an eye out in those tags right there. You just fire them away, and I'll keep an eye on the chat as well. All right. Okay. Good, good. So that's it. So it's one of those things. So first off is patience, and then it's your patter. So allowing yourself to go slow, particular jokes as well. And in addition to that, it's your pacing, and this is a lot to do with literally physically how you move about on your stage. The speed you talk is the speed you'll walk. The slower you are in your patter, the slower it will be, the more you'll physically begin to wear it. So in that sense, so it's and we are talking about deliberate movement as opposed to static movement, or what we call rocking in one spot because perhaps one's nervous, but being mindful of our so as we're walking from one location to another, it has a purpose behind it. Or as I'm reaching for my bag, I'm reaching for my ropes, for example. So it's like so everything has a purpose. But you combine all this, well, more on that as well. Your pacing also reflects your character. And this is when we begin to lend ourselves to character development. So if I was to ask you a question is, what does your character look like? In other words, how do you think you're perceived by your audience? There's one thing how you perceive yourself, but when you're performing, how what is it you're portraying, or in particular? So you can, there's lots of ways we can ask this. And when we open up this into questions and Q&As later, that'll be one of the things. So what is it you're portraying? What is your character portraying? What is it you hope that your audience sees? And what are they seeing? And it's important detail. Wow. I've started coughing. Veronica's cooking. I think I'm just going to say this is useless information, but other than I'm explaining my cough, but she's cooking a mean curry in the background, and all I can smell is these incredible fumes that are just suddenly filling the house, and it's going to be a hot curry. That is, I think that's going to be my reward for But backing on, right? But yes, back on plot. Your character, your pacing, the way you hold yourself, all these things will come together in your show. So it's more than just movement, and we can go into this in depth. And this is one of those questions that I want to throw out to you. What is it you want to focus on in our next session? And the big part is character play as well, developing our characters. I spent a lot of time studying the art of clowning and how that affects my audience and the impact of our audience. And this is something you can go into deep, so it's like what character and what various characters that you can portray, but what best suits you, what you can wear. And by that, what character you can wear. And the best character that you can, I've touched on this in the past, but the best character that you can portray is an exaggerated version of yourself. That's the easiest character to portray. otherwise you go into acting, but literally to exaggerate that character of yourself. So it's, and we can look into that. It's one of my favorite subjects, clowning or character development. But then you got it. There's the 3 P's: the practical, patience, patter, and pacing, and they all belong hand in hand, hand in hand with each other. And this is like the fundamentals of slowing down. Now, all of this is happening as you're doing your build. So right at the beginning, my first effect is it doesn't come into play until I've got that edge of people. Wow. Sorry. My first effect does not come into play until I have that crowd of people. I've got my first edge of people of what I'm happy to have there. And that could be, so I will be doing at least 7 minutes of play, often longer, in my build right at the beginning of literally setting up my table. And we have touched on this. And if you were to look at one of our membership lives, it's Membership Live 2. And it's all focused on attracting an audience. And there, I literally am sharing video content there of me doing this live. And then I thought it'd be, I didn't want to share that tonight as such. But if you wanted to check that out, of that happening in real time, you'll see what I mean, where I am attracting an audience and setting up the table and making the sound, color, movements. I'm very aware of my of growing my audience. I'm aware of being patient and being aware of who's who. I'm very aware of my patter, my one-liners, the things I'm coming out with, and of course my pacing. And it's all there. So it's but the other way of looking at it is sound, color, and movement. So so sound, color, and movement. So it's so my first opening effect is the silks of attraction. This winter, I've been experimenting with different things. I've been experimenting with working with coins a little bit. So I've just been doing a little bit of coin magic, if you like, and just largely playing with but it's been lovely. It's been really a lot of fun playing with a whole variety of different coins, So and so if you like, I come up with my original version of a miser's dream. I guess it's a little bit difficult to show it right here. Coins coming from all sorts of different places, but largely from a child, and so I've been experimenting. I've been experimenting on pitch. But again and again, I keep on coming back. So now what I've done is I have introduced the miser's dream in the middle of my routine, and I've gone back to my faithful silks of attraction routine, which is something I'm going to share with you. I've got a video where I have now attracted my audience, and there's a certain technique that I do, and that is to speak out what I want to see happening in my show. And this is largely wanting to go slow. So I literally am saying it, and I'll speak it out. I'm going to go slow, slow, and slow again. Okay, so let me just share this with you. So and what do I want? Going slow. This is the one. And I'll do it again. I'll go slower. She's playing a hard game, she is. So I'll go slower. Look. Certain things you shouldn't do when you're doing magic. One, you should never do the same trick twice. I'm doing it twice. Can't be fair around that. You. You should see the way I'll show what she looks like again. All of this. No, I'm not copying you. I'm playing. High five. Potato, 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 potato. Potato. Oh, you're going to be trouble. Right, anyway, this is it. This is it. This is right. There's some of the things you should never do. You should never do. You should never do. You should never do this. If you do this, you know I got to. Shatters all the perceptions. Yeah, like it's turning inside out. Yeah, this is it. Watch. This is where I am. I literally am telling myself. Still not impressed. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you're here, sir. Yeah, it's just like it's going to get contagious. Watch this. We're going to take it to the next level. Working with one silk hand. Watch. Slight. Not hand. That looks like that. Slight the mouth. Let me show you. Right, we're going to take this here. Yeah. So, yeah. So if you can see what I'm saying right there, that is the size of the audience that I've attracted into my to myself, and it's at that point that I introduce in my very first effect. But it's taken me a good 7 minutes to build that audience. And that was, again, like I say, you can look at the previous video of attracting an audience in our membership live 2. And that's a video that you can, have a look at. And, but that's where we're at. So in that sense, and literally as I'm performing the effect, I am speaking it out, telling myself, I want to go slow. I'm going to go slow and slow again. So this is any questions so far?
Yes, about the Misa stream. I remember once you said it's not the best option to do some coin magic on the streets before for the head, because if you do money effects, they don't want to donate well.
That was not me. Right? No, that
was not you.
No, I wouldn't. I'm actually. I disagree with that. I know it's a school of thought, okay. But I know I perhaps made references of where those coins happen. So literally, so it's something. But I personally don't think it's an issue. Okay. To actually work with money or coins. If anything, it could qualify you. It all depends how you do the effect. So no, I don't see it to be in conflict. Okay. But again, this is just a school of thought. You're welcome to disagree with me, but but from my experience, it's just like it could be a miser's dream routine, a bill switch routine that is often works, and if anything, it can be something I used to do in my very big circle shows. Is I would take £5 out, and I would tip the child who was my volunteer. Now this is so I would literally give him £5. And this is really, and it'd be part of my patter. I didn't do it for many years, but it was part of one of my straitjacket show. And the patter would be because the street performer, because you're a street performer, and the street performer is worth his due. And it would be a form of educating my audience. So it depends how you do it. But there are some people who will swear blind that if you like, the conflict of working with coins and mice, in a street show. No, I don't see it.
Hey, Mario.
Hey, Wayne, how you doing? Welcome.
Right. Sorry, I logged in late. But,
no, you're right. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Great to see you. So if you would, you mentioned that maybe the placement in the show for a coin routine? Because I'm working on something now for a bigger type circle type show with a coins across routine. Where would you say that would go better then in the early in the show?
Okay, is your coins
Or
across? So just out of interest, is your coins across? Are you performing it in your hands, or you performing it on the table?
oh, it's in my hands. It's a coins to glass routine
All right, nice.
with a big finish where two people from the from you know, two spectators are assisting in the last leg. But I like it because it's noisy.
Yeah.
And so it's a good attention getter. But it's brand new. I mean, I haven't really, you know, worked out all the, you know, I haven't really, you know, road tested it yet.
I got you. Yeah. Well, personally, it's where are you thinking of placing it? Let me ask you that. Or what?
After I was thinking early, but after my crowd gathering.
Okay. Yeah, and in my mind, that's
maybe the first real trick after my gathering, you know, my crowd building.
and that to me is and are you on your own? I.e., do you have a volunteer up on stage with you yet, or you know, in your on your pitch yet? Or
it's no, I don't have that, and I would start this routine. So I would not have had a volunteer up on my pitch yet. This would be really where I'd start to get somebody up, because I start by handing some things out into the crowd, and then I draw a person in, and then I draw two people in for the end of it.
okay, so I mean, for the it sounds like to me where you're placing it is the right place to have it, and to me, in the beginning of your build. So my opening effect is is the silks of attraction, which
Yep.
yeah, so it's not a shameless
Great.
plug. It's just a fact.
Oh, it's great.
It's just, it's the silks of attraction. I am going to mention now that all our silks now are British made. We produce these ourselves, and they're all stitched here in the UK. So we have some beautiful silks because you can't get hold of them anymore. But you know, that was a shameless plug. Okay, but yes, so I would do the silks of attraction. That would be my opener. I then would get the child up, and now no, first sorry, I do my linking ropes, and now
Yep.
get the child up, and this is where I start doing the coin routine. I do so, and for that, yeah, so you know, so I do the I used to do, and what I've done, I've dropped my card to mouth routine in order to fit this into my show. So instead, I'm working with coins. So I've got no cards on my show currently,
Okay.
unless I'm doing my commando show, and that's when I'm doing the world's most dangerous card trick.
Right.
So that's what I do it, and you know, and then I turn the child into a star. I go into cups and balls, and that's where I do my hat lines. That's what works for me. So, is it impossible to do the coins before your hat line? That's where I think there might be a clash. Going back to you, Frank. You know, if I'm just doing the miser's dream right then and at the end, it's potential, but I just don't think it's a strong enough effect as such, potentially. You know, it's just like but coming back, Wayne, to yourself, our tonight's focus is all about how to expand our shows. And what's most imperative and more important is actually your pacing. Actually, so it's literally it's you know, it's about going slow, not rushing the routine, pacing yourself, your patter, and you know, and literally your movement as well. So it's yeah, so it's just come back. I call it the 3 Ps: patience, patter. Oh, I should read it. Yeah, sorry, patience, patter, and pacing. So patience, patter, and pacing. Those are the key things. So if you're rushing these routines, that's when they get swallowed up and is resisting as resisting that. There is a magnified pressure on us to go fast on the streets like any other, unlike any other environment you'll ever find yourself in. There's just that pressure, partly because the streets have a natural pace of their own. They literally do. Every place. When you're, if you create a theatre and you're inside a theatre, it's an environment that you're in charge of that pace from the start off, and you'll get the untrained performer or go in there and possibly rushing through their material because that's what they're used to doing. But a seasoned performer is going to take charge of that environment and create their own pace. On the streets, it's a different ball game. There's already a pace there, a natural. I say natural, an artificial pace there that's been generated by the speed of traffic, people going to work, people on a mission, people, people on a mission, people going to work, people late for an appointment and all the rest of it. You've got this energy which is already there on the streets. A seasoned performer, well, as we become more adept, we'll learn, we'll be very, very aware of this unnatural rhythm. And our jobs as performers is to resist it. Yeah. And we resist that pace. And we start creating our own pace and our own rhythm. And as I've mentioned it before, that's why a mime artist, a physical mime artist, will stand out on the streets, because they literally are resisting pace altogether by literally standing still. So and that's the reason. It's not because of their costumes why they stand out. It's the fact that they're actually standing still. And this is it.
That's such a great comment, because idea, because right, I tend to want to match the pace of what's happening in order to get the interest and hold the interest. So that's a great mindset to have going in.
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head right there. There is a natural inclination in us to actually speed up to this pace that's there. And it took me 10 years to realize I had to do the opposite. And that's why I used to give myself such a hard time. My routines and my effects, the magic I was performing, all of it. I used to, it's just, my cups and balls, it's just, and it was the complete opposite. It wasn't the effects. Well, it was the effects, but it was the pacing of my effects. It was the pacing of my routine. It was the pacing of myself, my patter, and all those things. Yeah, it's
cool. Okay, that's a good homework assignment to try next time I go out.
No, but it's all there. It's all there. So and this is it. So all this is happening. So when I'm doing my build right at the beginning, I am using sound. The show has begun. As soon as I arrive on pitch, my hat's on my head, my case is out, and that's it. I've started the show. But my first effect, like I say, is not coming out to play until I got people ready to watch it. And this is really important part, So if you start your material too soon, then your show's going to be over before people arrive, if that makes any sense.
Right.
And of course, this will affect the size of your hat. So I'm working towards the fattest hat I can milk that day. So some people say, some people will complain. There's some street performers, they go on and on and on. Yeah, that's what we do. That's right. That's because they're doing something right. And of course, if you're watching lots of street shows, that what we call the slow build can be seen to be repetitive but for someone who's never seen a street show before. That pacing is an experience, that takes them on, if it's a good show, we'll say it's an experience that they're never going to forget, and for a large proportion of my audience, that's often the case. We've got to remember that as well. That's often the case. Your show is the first street show they've ever seen. A good proportion of, they're not seeing them daily, unless, of course, they live in Covent Garden or like you, Bruce, in New York, or, and they are seeing street shows on a daily basis. But a large proportion of our audience, that's the first street show. So forget what magicians think. So slowing down, resisting, going slow, getting those people coming in and starting that show. For me, it's very hard to put a time on these things, but it's normally around about 5 to 7 minutes. I get my first good edge. And that's when I'm going to perform my first effects. Like in the video I've already shared with you, so that very first effect. And even that, I'm slowing right down. I'm getting a high five from the kid. I'm doing a little bit of slapstick. I'm stepping out with the show, a couple of jokes that I'm making. The effect itself as well, 20 seconds to deliver, but the whole video was about 2 minutes long, and I was only half the routine. The other half wasn't there. So it was, so I'll show you it. It's in my pocket, Silks of Attraction. But that's it. So I'm literally, I'm showing off the silk, going slow. Watch this. I'm going slow. Many years practice, no social life. What happens fast. Change happens in a moment of time. Now, when I do this, there's always someone that says, I know what you're doing. You got two. Now, that's a fair observation, I must admit. The thing is, I only like to work with one. Now, I'll do that again. Certain things you shouldn't do in magic, at least that's what the textbook tells you. One, you should never perform the same effect twice. I'm performing it twice. The other thing you shouldn't do, you should never do this. If you do this, I got two. Shatters the illusion. 1, 2. To maintain it, you train people's eyes, your eyes. You see, eyes follow movement. Eyes follow movement. And after all, I only like to work with one. Now we could take this to the next level. The next level is slightly different. So we take this, and I call this sleight of mouth. Not hand, but mouth. Sleight of hand, well, that looks something like this. Sleight of mouth. And that allows me that there's all sorts of thank you. Thank you. There's all sorts of opportunities there for me to step away from the routine, take up a high five, acknowledge a distraction. Could be a police car, someone walking through my audience, depending what it is. But the whole point of it is that I'm going slow. Yes, it's like, thank you, David. I see David. It's in the chat right there. Giving me the whole part of it's going slow. More importantly, it's the timing of that. If I did that as my opener in order to attract my audience, I mean, you saw that I had about good 25 people that I've already attracted at that stage. I'll be 25 people at hands, only 5 people see that. What a waste. And that's where, it is, and I'm still building, I'm still building. I'm still acknowledging people arriving and turning up at that. I'm still building. I kind of stop building once I start doing my cups and balls. kind of there. They still arrive, but I've got the heart of my audience. But right up to that point, and making that noise, making that acknowledgement, getting people to move forward, and all the rest of it. And it's all about pacing. Okay, so I'm going to throw this open to you guys. I've got a couple of questions for you. But, so if you've got some, let me ask you some questions. Number one, and I was if we were to focus on in the next session on character, without just have a think of it's as if that's something you would like to see, we can go deep into character and character development, and let me know perhaps in the comments or your thoughts on that. But I got a question for you, and that is what challenge have you faced in regards to your pacing? So, or should I rephrase that question? Is this a challenge that you've personally experienced as a street performer in regards to your pacing? You all can relate to this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that feeling I need to rush. And I wanted, like, resisting the tendency to starting too soon, to take the time to let the build happen. Yeah. I'm still struggling with that. I'm fairly new to this, but I've been out on the streets a bit, and it still is a challenge for me. And I think you're hearing what you had to say will give me a good mindset that, where I really like force myself to put the stops on.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Wait, can I say something? Yeah, I mean, a lot of it has to do with when you manage to stop a couple of people, we get excited that they're there.
Yep.
And we want to perform for them. And at the same time, we're afraid that they're going to, like, if I don't do something for them, they're going to leave. And
that's right.
It's my crowd, so yeah, there's a tendency to rush and to start early. And like, exactly, I've experienced it so many times. And when I do it right and I slow down and have faith that, okay, if those two people walk away, so other people stop. It's all a matter of, I mean, when someone stops, you're excited that they've stopped and you want to perform for them. So you start burning through your material. So I agree.
Absolutely. And
it's harder when you have a longer break, right? When you have a longer break, it's harder. When you performing daily, it's much easier to hold to pace down. And when you have a longer break, maybe for a few weeks, it's much harder to resist.
It is always a challenge to come back into to brush up. But I must admit, once you've learned once it becomes a pattern of slowing down, it's like riding a bike. It becomes part of your routine. You kind of know you need to slow down. For 10 years I can relate, Frank, but for 15 years longer, I have been slowing down. And because of that, I remind myself, I speak it out in my show. Got to slow down. Got to slow right down. I got to slow down. Give you folks a chance to see this. I literally speak it out. So yeah, no, but you are right. And also, Bruce, the coming back to what you just said, because there's a real good point. The other question we got is what quality audience have we attracted? Ask yourself that. If they're worth their weight in gold, i.e. they'll slow down with you, because they're going to want to watch your experience. They're going to want to experience what you're giving them. If they're in a rush, let them go. Just let them go. I need to go somewhere. Well, okay, you're busy right now. See you next time. I think sometimes there's like this hidden pressure on us that we're like they think we're DJs, You know, they, or do this. We're not DJs. I don't do demands. This is my show. I'm going slow. But so that's one of those questions. Don't be afraid to lose them.
I've experienced the same thing where I've been performing and I've attracted a reasonably sized crowd, and all of a sudden I think I don't want to lose them, right? So I tend to speed up, whereas really I should be saying, no, right, let's just work to the principles, slow down, and not really care if I lose them. Because if I say I don't care if I lose them, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do because that's the right thing to do. I think that's the way I would approach it now. So not really care. By not really care if I lose those people,
Absolutely.
I can actually just do what I should be doing, and think of not worrying too much about am I going to lose them, but maintaining the right principles, right, that I should be doing in a magic show on the streets.
In addition to that, is that there are times when we need to repeat our entire build again. So watching our audience and going, okay, I'm not there yet. So it's actually just in other words, it's taking it to such an extent and repeat your build. So it's like and certain aspects of that won't be practical, like setting up my table for the second time. But I had been known to do it but that means I pulled the pin on the, got the whole table up and set up and ready to go. And there's like 7 people there, and 3 of them are looking at me like, go on, get on with it. I look at them, I go, really? You know what? I'm just going to I'm going to shut my show down completely, and literally put my table away, and wait for them to leave, and then start again.
One of the guys in Vegas, I forget who it is, calls that firing his audience.
Yeah.
I forget who's.
No, well, I don't. But you say pull the fire from?
No, firing the audience. You're fired. Get out. You're fired.
Right. I got you. Yeah, so that's a nice saying. Yeah, it's a fire. Yeah, I call it pulling the pin.
Yeah.
Or as an old term, as pulling the pin. Oh, I got another question for you guys, and that is it's going back. So we got patience, being patient, going slow, slowing right down. We've talked about patter, your patter, framing what we're saying, holding out, framing or holding a joke out. Don't roll over a punchline. And it's one of those traits that people do. They just, because it's speeding. So they got like, 20 jokes in 10 minutes, like a little Tommy gun, but none of them are funny. The reason why they're great jokes. They're just, it's painful to watch. The great jokes they're ruining, because they're doing this ruining, and I get it, because we've all been there. But no, frame it, hold it, deliver it. Pause. It'll, give you. And the last part is pacing, which has a lot to do with our movement, the color in our movement, a deliberate movement, and also character. The character we're portraying. And this is one of those questions I wanted to ask you folks, is when you're performing, what character do you hope to portray, or what character do you portray? More importantly, what do you think your audience sees? What are they seeing? I mean, it's a one we can look into, but and we're going to use this as partly as a bedrock for our next session. But this is partly it, so does anybody got any thoughts on that? Oh, we got some.
Well, for me, usually it's more exaggerated version of myself.
Yeah.
So when I'm on stage entertaining, I'm a little bit more, bit louder, a bit funnier. Probably not so much dark humor that I usually do, but has been known.
Yeah, yeah, but it suits you, Tom. You've
Yeah.
got you've got a very likable character. This is you know, it's just you have got a very likable character, and you're you know, knowing you as a friend, you're eccentric as well. You have this eccentric veneer about you, which you refer to as dark. But that you know, there's that side of you which is like, you know, you're pleasantly unpredictable.
I think my wife would agree with you there. Yes, pleasantly unpredictable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but but that in your show is something you know you should what's the word, just become really aware. That's the Tom we like, you know, and that's who you're sharing with the world. That character, as well as that humor, you know. What I see in you is this yeah, that you know is that character, you know, and you know, and your temperament. I say that because you can be uh, uh, pleasantly unpredictable. uh, but cool. I might go throw this in. I mean, if you've got any questions as well, or if you've got any thoughts on character, or if you want more time to think about it, that's fine.
I think it's a great thing to talk about character, but here's the thing. So I'm new to doing street performing, but I have a longer experience with more normal stand-up, you know, stage and whatnot. Should the character be different? Like I was watching some video of Jimmy Talks a Lot, I guess, and he has a unique character, very identifiable, that almost looks like it's designed for just a street performer, not his normal. You know, I don't know that it would communicate in other venues very well. So I'm basically bringing my performing character to the street, and I wonder sometimes if it's, you know, it's like I'm so hit or miss as far as getting a good hat.
Right. So what's the actual? Sorry, narrow that question down for me.
So would there be a specialized type of character that would work better in the street that maybe would not work as well in a different type of performing venue?
Right. Answering that for myself, my character is quite consistent, you know, both on street and on stage. It's the, you know, it's in that sense. Saying that, I do have a bizarre show where in my first half of my show, I'm actually performing 4 different characters to tell a story, and I literally am changing. So I'm literally first I'm Sideshow Joe, first half, and then I mimic Eugene Berger in a routine, and I become Magi Ali, and then in the last part I become the witch hunter, and and that's the very first half of my show. So I do play these different characters, but I'm aware these characters are not me. The second half of my show, when because we break at that point, the second half of my show, when my audience comes back into the theater, this is an indoor show. I'm performing me. You know, so the first half is my story of how I became me, if you like. So I am yeah. So that's very much that part of that show. So but what I portray on the streets is characters. The number one thing for me, it's like I said, I studied clowning for a great part of my time, and that study also allowed me to realize that my audience are engaged with my character. They're enjoying the experience of watching my show. So I lean heavily on character in my show, if that makes any sense. But I think in that sense, though, Wayne, it's also one of those questions that we all have to answer ourselves. For me, the study of looking at the archetypes of clowns was very, very, it's a helpful study. But I must admit, I'm not talking about stereotype clowning here, but I am talking about stereotype, but the appliance of it is not necessarily adorned with makeup and noses and pasting up your face as such. But no, it's more character development. So we look
take it back to Commedia dell'arte.
Sorry?
Take it back to Commedia dell'arte.
Yeah.
All in the Commedia, and there you go with the mask.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you, Tom. What a great illustration. And those archetypes are where a lot of great clown characters come from, and mine included, and all that. So I just Google it, and you'll see the list of characters with descriptions. There's 1 or 2 websites that are excellent. You'll see yourself in one of them, and then you start exploring with that. I mean, that's great.
Yeah. All right, that really settles it in my mind. That will be our next focus, is looking into character and character development, and taking that. So and we can go into that a lot more. It's a great subject matter. I mean, Bruce, in my mind, the ones I studied a lot of was the black and white characters as well. The Harold Lloyd and Charlie Chaplin and and even the modern equivalents of them. It's like.
Well, I mean, if you spend time with comedy duos, Abbott and Costello, every one of those Laurel and Hardy, all these characters, even up to I Love Lucy, and this stuff is it's all great old stuff, and it's all there's all these archetypes, and it helps build, it helps you define character.
Yeah, no, it does. Mork and Mindy. Gee, my mind's gone blank. Mork and Mindy. What's
Robin Williams.
Oh, gee, yeah, Robin Williams. No, he started off. He's a fantastic character, and if you ever wanted an in-depth study into his character play, is watching the whole season of Mork and Mindy. It's just his approach to comedy and humor, and and not everyone is aware that he actually started off as a street performer. He literally started off as a street performer doing physical mime and theater and comedy on the streets. And I believe in New York. Am I right there?
Yeah, no, in one of his, the Cannery in San Francisco was one of his big starts. I don't know when he came to New York, but he was of a small group of people. I think him, Harry Anderson, a couple of people started out in something called the Cannery out on in California.
Yeah,
amazing.
Well, I'm just gonna those that have, a couple of people that have struggled to put on their cameras. I'm just gonna, Eric, we know you're there. Good to see you, my friend. David, thank you for your feedback there. And we, I think we've lost one along the way, but yeah, someone's struggling right there with their camera as well. But yeah,
I have a question, Mario.
Oh, yeah, Frank.
For me, it's hard to play the same character on stage as well, because on the streets I'm a bit rude, cocky, bold. The jokes are more primitive. For me, maybe it depends on the German language, but it's hard to play the same character on stage because you're too cocky, or how could I say? I think you know what I mean.
I do. I've got a lot to say on that, and I do think it's going to be one of those things we're going to have to pick up in our next session. because that is, and that comes down to the character you want to develop, the character you want to portray. I mean, for you, and who your mentors are. For years, I watched, watching other street performers who've got a hard edge to them is something you end up adopting and mirroring yourself. Do you follow me? Yeah, there's a lot of street performers that can be quite harsh. Yeah, and that's so it's a big question. Is that what you want to portray? Because I went down that road for for a good 10 years, and I kind of lost my way. Both in myself, the way I was portraying. I became this harsh performer, and actually, it's not what I wanted to portray. And I went away from almost my love for clowning, and I became this, semi-abusive street performer that you get, that 10 to a dozen. And but like I say, it's a good point. I know what you mean. But it's still a choice. The person I was portraying, and the other side of that is your audience. Who's your audience? So of course, if you're doing children's, if you're doing children's parties, or if you're, it's very different from working on the street. It's a very different audience. But in the back of my mind, and I'm not setting an etiquette because everyone's different. But in the back of my mind, on the streets, I'm still a family entertainer. But that's my level. I kind of went down this slippy road for a little while. But then probably about 10 years, I went, you know what? Not only have I become a grumpy street performer, I'm not even enjoying my shows anymore. Why is that? I become grumpy street performer. I became that which I didn't like, So I had a big turnaround some years ago. Okay, so but folks, I am gonna call it in. I think we've our time is done, and but we've been a good session. It's good seeing you all, and if you can focus on that question though as well, perhaps your character. We'll go into this, and Frank, we'll pick that up next week. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right then. Thank you, guys, and appreciate you all.
Enjoy the curry.
Oh yeah, yeah. I tell you, it is really spicy. That's why I'm coughing away. Oh, this is it. We're gonna have to flip the time and bring it back to the original time of 5 o'clock next week, UK time. It's just an hour earlier than what we have right there. Got some right at the back. Dave, yeah, Dave, I hear you. Thank you very much, Dave.
Right.
Appreciate it.
Have a great week, everybody. Take care.
All right.
Thanks. This was terrific. Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Got it.